And we're joined now by the former UFC welterweight and middleweight champion, Georges St-Pierre. And George, I wonder if you look back on your career, as great as it was, Hall of Famer, obviously, how much did that loss to Matt Serra resonate with you, maybe more so compared to when you beat him the second time in the rematch?
I think two things can happen when you lose in this game. Some guys they lose their confidence and never come back the same, or some people learn from their mistakes and come back even better.
I mean, your upset loss to him was one of the biggest in UFC history, obviously. And you mentioned how some people don't respond well. Ronda Rousey had a huge upset loss to Holly Holm, and she was never the fighter after. Then she left the sport pretty much altogether shortly thereafter. Once you had that devastating loss in an upset fashion, what was your motivation to get back? And that's obviously what's facing Amanda Nunes here tonight.
Yeah, the reason I believe some athletes never come back the same is because they lose their confidence. In the fight game, confidence is one of the most important thing. If you have all the skills in the world, but you don't have the confidence, it's a little bit like someone who has a lot of money in his bank account, but no way of accessing it. You need the skills and the confidence. Losing is part of life, and when you lose, and as a champion, you fall from very high often. However, you need to be able to put that behind you and learn from your mistakes. And I believe Amanda tonight has a chance to redeem herself, and maybe she can come back even better than she was. But it has all to do with our confidence and the way it works up there.
You know, all of us in some form or fashion through the course of our lives go through some adversity, and sometimes it's unexpected adversity. And how you respond to it, to your point earlier, is what really determines your future success if you're going to have it. From an emotional standpoint, George, what is that like? Losing a fight that you had no intentions of losing whatsoever, no one thought you would lose, but then to get back up to your earlier point to go back and do it all over again.
Well, it has to do with how she is mentally. You know what I mean? Is she ready? Is she still ready to get out of her comfort zone in order to improve and to go through a hardcore training camp? She's been doing it for years. You know what I mean? Now maybe
Mm-hmm.
I know her life changed since the beginning of her career. You know what I mean? It's important for her to remain hungry. But if she's not hungry, she's not obsessed about being the best. She will not be able to perform at the same level as she did. You know, and I think we're gonna have the answer tonight.
If we could go back to your rematch with Matt Serra, going into the first fight, as we said, no one thought he was going to win except maybe himself. But then in the second fight, you wonder, oh, is he maybe a better caliber fighter than we thought? What sense of confidence change did you sense in him the second time than maybe what you faced across the cage in the first meeting?
Well, in my case, I at the time I was it was my first title defense. It was a different situation, um, and at the time I beat Matt Hughes, who was at the best welterweight of his era. So my first title defense at the time was against a man who nobody gave any chance to beat me. So I perhaps did not see him as much as a threat as I should. I have learned a valuable lesson when I lost. Of course, it was probably one of the most humiliating experiences of my career, but I learned that you should never, of course, never put someone on a pedestal, but you should never underestimate nobody, because you, no matter how good you are always at one mistake to lose everything.
And Julianna Pena is hopefully to become not a Matt Serra because he was 11-7 in his professional career and never really had any good fights after that. She does not want to be an answer to a trivia question: who upset Amanda Nunes at UFC 269? So, with that standpoint, as you look at what faces Julianna tonight, George, how do you see her aspect of this matchup playing out?
Yeah, the first time she had the element of surprise. Now the element of surprise is gone. So it's going to be a different situation for her as well. But she has to go out there and push the pace like she, and not not put Nunes on a pedestal. She had to go there very hungry and try to repeat the same thing she did. The mental side of the game is very important in a situation like this. You know what I mean? On the one side, you have Nunes that has to remain hungry. She need to be hungry, and she need to go there with the mentality that she want to make a statement that what happened last time was just a bad luck. And on the other side, you have um, Pena that want to repeat the same thing that she did last time. So she had to go there with no respect, sort of, and execute her game plan. And not letting the former champion a chance to redeem herself.
Yeah, that's why it's so anticipated, this matchup, and how it's going to play out, but also how it may compare to the first time we saw them back in December. George, while I have you, I'd be remiss not to talk about what you've been doing since you hung up your gloves for the final time a few years ago. The actor GSP now. We've seen you in a couple of Marvel movies and also on Disney Plus, I should say, in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. First of all, where did that intrigue into acting come from for you?
Well, I believe I was acting all my career because every time every time you see me before a fight and I'm walking towards the octagon, I look like I'm very confident and excited to be there. But deep down inside, I'm extremely nervous, scared, and uncomfortable. So I believe everybody is some kind of an actor in his everyday life. It's a skill that I worked a lot to develop over the last 5 years, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it.
I mean, you look great. I mean, obviously in a fight scene, you're a natural. But I wonder what's the difference training for a UFC championship fight or training for an action scene in a movie?
Well, there's a lot of similarities in when you train for a title fight. You repeat a lot of different situations that might occur in the fight, and you repeat it, and no matter how many times you repeat it, when you get into the fight, you realize quick enough that your opponent is never as good as you think he was, but he's never as bad either. He's always different. Same thing for a movie. You can rehearse a scene so many times, but when you get on set and it's time to play it, everything's changed. The reaction of the actor with who you're playing might change. The background is different than what you imagine. So the best actor and the best athlete, I believe, have something in common. They are like what Bruce Lee described, be like water. They're great to adapt. They have a very good adaptability.
When you get into a cage, there's no choreography. Like, you're trying to do something, your opponent's trying to do something, and we'll just see what happens. But when you do a fight scene, there is choreography. And I wonder, George, how close have you come to actually clipping one of your fellow actors in some of these fight scenes?
Well, it's kind of a dangerous job as well, because when you work for a fight scene, it's like a dance. You move and expect a reaction from your partner, because if you punch and he doesn't duck, you're gonna punch him, but it needs to look real. You can't really hold back too much. So I remember one of the scene for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We were rehearsing it with Anthony Mackie, and I was throwing a punch, and he was ducking under, and it was very late at night, and we did it so many times, so it became like an automatic. And at one point, I remember I threw a punch, but he did not duck on time, and I was not able to pull my punch enough. So I touched him a little bit, but it was fine. You know what I mean? This is the part of the game. You know what I mean? And it's still dangerous sometimes.
I don't know if I got clipped by GSP if I would be fine. Well, I don't know.
I was able to
pull it back enough.
To deflect it.
Fair enough. All right, George, again, we appreciate the time. Thanks for reminiscing a little bit with us to see how the emotions could play out tonight for Amanda Nunes as she tries to regain her title against Julianna Peña. And we look forward to seeing you something soon, maybe in a Marvel movie coming up very soon. GSP, appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.